Time now to take a look through the international newspapers, and for that I'm joined by Florence Villamino. Hello, Florence. Now, let's talk about international press reaction to Tony Blair's testimony in the UK. Of course, he's been giving evidence at the Leveson inquiry.
Absolutely, he's getting a lot of attention in the international press today. He's in the hot seat over his relationship with Rupert Murdoch. We're going to take a look at the International Herald Tribune. There you see him. Blair defends his relationship with Murdoch. Now, yesterday, he said that a close interaction between media figures and politicians had always been the case. It was always going to go on. Blair said that this was somewhat of an unhealthy relationship, but inevitable. So the International Herald Tribune is covering that. So is the Wall Street Journal. Mood shift for former Prime Minister Blair. It said that he arrived at the inquiry in a relaxed mood, and then he was confronted by an intruder, we've been seeing it this morning, who called him a war criminal. It's also on the cover of The Independent, which says it's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, according to Tony Blair. And there you see him with a bunch of quotes from the inquiry. And inside there's an interesting comment piece by Lance Price, who was a former media advisor to Tony Blair, who said that Tony Blair let Murdoch shape policy. It's a very interesting article. It says that Rupert Murdoch was essentially the 24th member of Blair's cabinet, and he shaped government policy, because Blair said that if you have a readership that runs in the millions, that's power. And power, maybe not to decide, but definitely to influence, notably on matters regarding Europe. For instance, Tony Blair was quite for joining the Europe. Rupert Murdoch wasn't. Now, it wasn't just Murdoch who influenced the fact that Great Britain didn't join the Eurozone, but it might have influenced it somewhat. And the article points out that Murdoch, though, he wasn't elected, and he didn't even have a vote in Britain. So why did Blair give him so much importance? There's an interesting quote that says that Blair's relationship to the media power was like that of an agnostic to God. He wasn't sure that it existed, but he decided to behave as if it did, just in case. And on that note, there's an interesting cartoon in the Independent that kind of plays into this idea of relationship, somewhat of a religious relationship to the media. And there you see Tony Blair, who says, "I sold my soul to who?" And there you see a profile of Rupert Murdoch with, I guess, devil horns that were burned into Blair's chest.
All right, we're going to move on to a different story now, Syria, and it's getting a lot of attention. The conflict in Syria is getting a lot of attention in the Chinese press.
Yes, and this is somewhat surprising because we've been covering, obviously, the happenings in Syria for quite some time, and the Chinese press has been rather silent about the issue, and it seems as if China Daily is breaking its silence on the Syrian issue. It seems up to now it's skirted the whole matter, but it seems like these killings in Hula might have been the last straw. There it is on the cover of China Daily, so the English language conservative window into China, that says that it's a day of grief with a photo of funerals in Hula. There's also an in-depth article inside that says that China condemns cruel killings of civilians. It goes so far as to call it a massacre. The wording of this article is very interesting because it really shows a concrete change in stance on the part of the Chinese press. Also, there's an editorial which says that violence in Syria must end. So it's really interesting to see this coming out of China. It says that Friday's killing should make people angry. The article backs the UN Security Council's condemnation of the massacre. It doesn't go so far as to blame Bashar al-Assad's government, but it says that whoever is responsible must be found and held accountable. The article, however, does point out that there are, quote, terrorist groups that are trying to destabilize Syria. But it says that the international community should exert pressure on all forces in Syria, and it really backs Kofi Annan's 6-point plan, which it says might be the last chance to solve the Syrian crisis in peace. Now, there's a more cynical article in The Independent regarding the Syrian crisis by the Middle East correspondent Robert Fisk, who says that the West is appalled by Hula now, but soon we will forget. Unfortunately, Bashar al-Assad got away with Dera and Homs, and according to Robert Fisk, he will also get away with Hula.
Well, let's hope that's not entirely true. That's Robert Fisk's opinion. We'll have to see what happens there. Thank you very much for taking us through the international papers, Florence Villamino.